thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Before I get started here, I do want to promote this STEM program, and this card is on each one of your tables here. I hope I'm facing the right way. If I start looking in a different direction, just somebody tell me, okay? And also, if I start walking off the stage, somebody catch me. Okay, so this card is on your table, and it's about the STEM program. If you're interested in finding out more information, go ahead and sign up, and then come over. You can drop the card off at the table there with the beautiful woodworking stuff that's sitting on there as well. I'm here to talk about challenges in your life, challenges in my life. In our lives, we all face challenges. It's not a matter of if we face a challenge, it's a matter of when. Challenges like the loss of a loved one, an injury, disability, a loss of a job. The answer to how you solve that problem or how you take on that challenge is within each one of us. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's all within each one of us. Now, before I go any farther, I do want to thank the people in this room and probably a lot more that came before you. In 1977, I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree at the Ohio State University. So back then I was a normal student, at least I considered myself a normal student. I was sighted, walking around, taking classes, driving, having a part-time job. And then just recently in June, I attended a seminar here for the STEM program. And as I walked out of the session, I was standing by the corner waiting for my bus. It just struck me. I thought, you know, I just came out of this building, and there's a lot of buildings around me. There's construction off in the distance. There's landscaping around me. There's sidewalks. There's students. There's traffic. And I thought to myself, this must be an enormous job to take care of all this facility. And when I was a student here, I had no idea. I didn't even think about that. And I'm sure that there's many students today walking around that just don't even think about all the work that goes in to taking care of this place. So thank you very much. And I think that maybe you can maybe those students 30 years from now will come to the realization of what kind of things you folks do. In 1974, I found out that I was going blind. I had no idea before I went to that doctor's office. It was an ophthalmologist. I had no idea before I went to that office that I was going blind. He sat me down at the end, and I'm, okay, what do you want to talk to me about? And he says, you have retinitis pigmentosa, and you're going to go blind. It's like, really? So it's like, so the symptoms of retinitis pigmentosa is tunnel vision and night blindness. Well, my vision at the time, I could see centrally about 20/40 with corrective lenses, and I had peripheral vision, but I didn't have any, I had a donut hole missing there. So, and then at night, when you turn off the lights, you don't see anymore. So I thought, well, you know, that's not unusual. And so I left the doctor's office, I got in the car and drove home and just continued on my work as a student and part-time job. It really didn't hit me that I was going blind until a few years later in 1979. In 1979, I stopped driving. You know, those are those moments in your life where you just sit down and kind of have a cry and say, I gave up something. And not too much longer after that, I stopped being able to read regular-sized print. At the same time, as I was going through this process, I was going to an eye doctor at the Boston Mass Eye and Ear. It was a Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary in Boston, Massachusetts. And there, the doctor told me, he says, if you want to keep working, you're going to have to find a company to work for that has the resources to provide you with the facilities to be able to do your job, to continue your job. In other words, adaptive equipment. I was working for a small company in Mansfield, Ohio, as a programmer and as an accountant. It was a mom and pop little shop. I loved the job, but I started looking for a job. And I found what I thought was a pretty decent job. I got a job with IBM. IBM in Endicott, New York, wherever Endicott, New York is. I had no idea. I was, you know, bought the ticket and went there, you know. And the two things that I liked about working at IBM when I first started there, one was that they had the resources to provide me with the facilities to do my job. Second is they had what they called a full employment practice. And that means if you were to do a good job and a decent job and kept your nose clean, you were going to have a career there for the rest of your life. So not only did I did do well at IBM, or at least I enjoyed myself at IBM, I also took advantage of my disability at that time or I used it to my advantage because in 1987, IBM was starting up a facility in Atlanta, Georgia called the National Support Center for Persons with Disabilities. And I thought, this is great. They go around the country talking to businesses about how people with disabilities can be good, productive members of the workforce. And I want to be there. I want to do that. So I went down there. They took me down there. And as it said in the video too, it said one of the things I quoted there was that their saying was that for some people, computers make things easier. For people with disabilities, they make things possible. Okay, I'm drifting now, aren't I? Okay, good. Okay, I told you I was blind. I'm not faking it, you know. You get a free dog if you're blind, though, you know, and you get to park really close to the buildings. So there is some advantage to this, believe me. You can talk to me afterwards, and I'll give you all the lowdown. So I was moved there to Atlanta, Georgia, and I went to places like New York City with American Express and helped place a couple ladies down there at the call center, and same thing out in Los Angeles at the Kaiser Permanente. But like all good things, it must come to an end. Now, IBM started to have a little cash crunch back in the late 80s, early 90s. So in 1993, I moved over back into programming as a C programmer for a couple years. And in 1995, IBM came to me and gave me the opportunity to find another job within the company or take the buyout package and leave the company. There's a challenge there, you know. I didn't ask for that. I thought I was doing okay. I did get offered a job in Raleigh, but my wife and I decided, let's move back to Columbus. Let's go back to Columbus. This is my hometown. So I left IBM, got my buyout package. So my next challenge is how we're going to get back to Columbus. I found a job with a small company in Boston that made these little handheld devices that are used as note takers for people who are blind. I supported that product out of my home, so it really didn't matter where I lived. We sold our house and went up to Columbus, Ohio. And everything was going pretty good there. You know, 1995, moved up there, and then 96, until February the 3rd, 1996. I will never forget this date. I was living in German Village on Grant Avenue, and you got to picture this. Okay, we're on Grant Avenue. I'm going to turn around here. I'm going to walk north towards the library, which is on Grant and State. My first major intersection is Livingston Avenue. So I walk up to Livingston Avenue, stop, listen for the traffic, wait for the exchange of traffic, and I started to walk across the street. And about 10 steps out in the street, I got run over by a Columbia Gas of Ohio vehicle. It was a Plymouth Voyager. It was my left ankle, right over my left ankle. So here I am, a blind guy, laying in the middle of the street, 20 degrees below zero wind chill factor. You think it's cold today. It was this cold and colder that day. So the ambulance comes over, they pick me up, take me to Grant Medical Center, go into the emergency room. So I'm recovering at home, and things start to get really good here. I'm working from home, and now I find out that the company that I'm working for, I still work for that little company in Boston, and they start bouncing my paycheck. The people in Boston could run to the bank and get their paychecks cashed, but by the time it got to me, there was insufficient funds, and my wife was going nuts. You know, we're bouncing the mortgage check. So I called my boss and I said, please just lay me off so I can get a job. So he did that. And here I am later on in February, and I'm in the parking lot of the unemployment office. Wind's blowing sideways, snow's blowing sideways. I come out, I'm this blind guy on crutches. It's exactly where I didn't want to be when I started IBM in 1982. I thought I would be there forever. Now I'm 43 years old, this blind guy on crutches going to the unemployment office. Good for me. So I walk in there, and I realized as I walked in there that there are a bunch of people in that room. They're all down on their luck, they're all down and out, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here with all these people? And then I realized I was one of them. And they're doing the same thing here that I was doing, and that is trying to make a better life for themselves, trying to get out of this hole and move on. My job was to find a job. And I had two criteria for getting a job. One was that the company had the resources to provide me with the facilities to do my job. And the second is they wouldn't bounce my paycheck. Okay? I was pretty sensitive to that at the time. So I think I went to the best company in Columbus for that at the time. This was 1997. It was Bank One. They will fire you if you bounce your own checking account. At least that's what they told me. Oh man, this is good.